Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Chris Caponero and your host for today's webinar. If by chance you miss a webinar in the future, all webinars are recorded and uploaded into the Learning Academy as a course. You can access the recorded webinar at any time by clicking the Events Past Webinars tab on the homepage of the Learning Academy. We are constantly adding new webinars and content to the Academy and encourage you to log in often. Thank you for taking the time to attend today's Learning Academy webinar. During the webinar, if you should have any questions, please feel free to type your question in the Q&A box on your screen, and we will address them at the end of the webinar. And now, I'd like to present Steve Veneman, Director of Marketing, Cable Vertical. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome to our webinar, which will provide an introduction to Juniper's Cable Business Services program. I'm Stephen Veneman, Marketing Director for the cable industry within Juniper Networks, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's webinar. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our speakers. Patrick Oborn is the CIO and co-founder of Telarus. Patrick co-founded Telarus in 2002 with a vision to systematize and streamline telecom carrier pricing information. His patented GeoQuote technology now guides telecom consultants and VARs as they assist their clients with carrier selection process. Patrick holds a master's degree in electrical and computer engineering from BYU and is the current chairman of the Technology Innovation Conference. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Tim Kennedy is the Vice President of Carrier Sales at Carousel Industries. With over 25 years of experience in the IT channel and telecom industry, Tim is responsible for the corporate strategy and growth of Carousel's National Carrier Services practice. Tim's diverse background includes senior management experience at an IT VAR, several national carriers, and Carousel Industries, a leading national integrator. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Steve. Happy to be here.
Kerry Tangler is the Executive Director of the Comcast Business National Partner Program and is responsible for national indirect sales partnerships and strategic business development. Kerry joined Comcast Business in 2011 with over 20 years of experience in technology and telecom market. Kerry has an MBA from Northeastern University and a BA from the University of Michigan. Welcome, Kerry. David Shulnick, who is the Director of Partner Sales for U.S. Cables. David has over 21 years of sales management experience in enterprise, commercial, carrier, and channel sales. David has led a variety of global teams from startups to organizations that achieved more than $570 million in annual revenue. Prior to Juniper, David managed the reseller channel at Jacobs Rimmel, which is now Amdocs. He was the Senior Manager of Global Service Management at Cisco Systems and Vice President and National Sales Manager at Philips Electronics. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Steve. Pleasure to be here.
So with that, today's webinar will follow a talk show format to provide an overview of the Comcast Solution Providers Program, an introduction to the Juniper Cable Business Services Program, how Telarus can enable our partners' success in reselling cable business services, and we'll hear from Tim Kennedy, who runs carrier sales for one of our Juniper partners, about why this program is important to our partners' success. I know we have a lot of great content to cover, so let's dive right in with the first question going to you, Kerry. Let's start with why we are here. Why should Juniper partners resell Comcast Business Services?
Well, that's a great segue and obviously a great place to start. As we look at the Juniper VARs out there, the real question is what's in it for me? And so in order to keep this kind of simple, I'm going to talk about three different things. As the slide suggests, there's a cloud aspect to this. So when we start talking to Juniper VARs in particular, one of the first things we try and do is get some acknowledgement that the cloud is here. It's here to stay, and it's going to do nothing but get bigger. I think over the last several years, we've heard about this over and over and over, but the reality is whether you're talking about small businesses or the very largest of the Fortune 500s or the Global 500s, the reality is the cloud is becoming more and more a force to be reckoned with from a partnering standpoint. Second thing we talk about then is, given that the cloud is here to stay, it then is incumbent on the partners, the VARs that is, to develop some sustainable advantage in that space. So the days of being able to go in and move boxes and sell software are over. Increasingly, the decisions for IT are being made by line of business managers. They're not about speeds and feeds. They're about business process and business results. And so for a VAR to stay relevant, stay competitive and, really stay at the top of the game, you've got to develop a sustainable competitive advantage. And to our mind, what that reflects is the ability to deliver an end-to-end solution. So if we're talking specifically about cloud, what that means is you've got to have access to the cloud or you don't have a cloud solution. So the pitch here is that in order for you to be competitive, sustainably competitive, which is really the key here, you've got to start looking at an end-to-end solution that goes all the way from internet access all the way through the end user's applications. And then finally, it's about account control. So one of the challenges I think that many established VARs and those that have been around for a number of years have been running into lately is increased competition on a number of fronts. You've got some of the born-in-the-cloud players that are coming in with a little bit more of that kind of end-to-end solutions design from the get-go. You've got some of the big LECs that are actually reselling competitive hardware and software. So the whole notion of creating that sustainable competitive advantage allows you to maintain account control and keeps the fox out of the hen house. Because in the overall scheme of things, folks, it's all about the Benjamins.
This sounds great, and like a great opportunity for our partners, Kerry. I understand that Comcast has a program called the Comcast Solution Providers Program that enables third parties to resell your services. What types of Comcast Business Services are supported in the Comcast Solution Providers Program?
Well, with Comcast as well as with the rest of the cable companies that you folks are undoubtedly familiar with, Time Warner Cable, Cox, Charter, Cablevision, even Bright House, and some others, we sell a variety of services ranging from small business solutions that are coax-based, in fact, very similar to the types of triple play solutions that people use in their homes, all the way up through much higher level product like you see on the slide here. So Comcast in particular is very, very focused on delivering Ethernet services. This is a relatively recent addition to our portfolio and really where the foundation of our partnership with Juniper is based. Beginning actually today or tomorrow, we are going to be delivering some Juniper equipment at the edge of any one of our Ethernet solutions, as we deliver it. So that will be at the customer DMARC, we'll actually be delivering a Juniper CPE. The products that are listed up here, though, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this, but this reflects the kind of the breadth and depth of the Ethernet solutions that we're selling into the enterprises right now. And the speeds range anywhere from 10 megs all the way up to 10 gigs. So we've got a very complete portfolio of Ethernet services. With the addition of Juniper to the product portfolio, we really feel good about where this product line is going in the future. And then if I may, Steve, I'm going to take one more slide here and talk about another initiative that we're just getting into the early stages of, and that is the ability to deliver direct connectivity to a lot of the leading cloud solutions. We have been working with folks like Amazon Web Services, IBM SoftLayer, Microsoft with their Azure solutions in the cloud to deliver direct connectivity to their key data centers and provide much more reliable, better performance for the end user by virtue of working with them. Not only are we working with them directly in some of their own dedicated data centers, but we're also partnering up with Equinix in this regard, utilizing their cloud exchange. So this will allow the Juniper VARs to really deliver a great solution to the end users out there that are looking to connect to some of these cloud solutions.
Sounds great, and definitely looks like a solid portfolio of services for our partners, and really happy to see the cloud connectivity options as well, especially as a lot of our target customers for these programs, be looking to outsource some of that IT up into cloud-based services. But what separates Comcast from your competition? Why should one of our partners resell Comcast services versus those from another service provider?
Well, I guess, what I'll start with is let's be sure to make a distinction between the competitive services in the market, which are typically some of the LECs, that is the phone companies, and the resellers of their services. Those are typically called CLECs. So there's a number of companies out there that are effectively riding the old telephone, that kind of the phone company system. Comcast, Time Warner, and the other cable companies actually represent a great alternative to the LECs for a number of reasons. I'll focus specifically on Comcast, but a lot of this also is relevant for the other cable companies as well. Comcast in particular is the largest of the cable companies right now. I won't go through all the detail here, but I guess the relevant piece of this for those of you in the audience are that we currently service 20 of the top 25 markets from a population standpoint. Those are highlighted on the map to the right here. And in the overall scheme of things, we've got a very, very solid state-of-the-art network with over 1 million lit buildings. So when you compare that to a lot of our competitors, you know, folks like a Level 3 or an XO perhaps, they're dealing with the tens of thousands of lit buildings. Comcast has got 1 million lit buildings across the country. I think if I want to take this a step further in terms of why Comcast is someone to consider in this space, as I mentioned before, we're really focused on Ethernet right now. The chart over on the right-hand side shows current market share, and this is from a third-party company called the Vertical Systems Group that measures carrier Ethernet market share on an annual basis. And again, I'm not going to go through all of the detail, but you can see that Comcast is currently a player with about 6.5% of the market, and this is based on the growth that we've had just over the last couple of years. We rolled out our Ethernet service about 3 years ago, so we're a relatively new player in this space, but have already grown to 6.5%. Back in Q4 of last year, we introduced what we're calling wide area or continental Ethernet, and that gives you the ability, for example, to connect all the way from, you know, Boston to Los Angeles to Miami to Seattle, basically any market to any other market, which is something that historically we hadn't been able to do. So, you know, our feeling is that Comcast has become a very, very viable player, a great alternative to the market leaders in its own right, and then if and when the Time Warner acquisition happens, that will actually vault us into third place overall. So as you can see there, Time Warner is slightly ahead of Comcast at 7.7%. So the combination of the two gets us up to just over 14%, right behind Level 3 in terms of the overall market share. So we really think that, again, Comcast, independent of anything else, is going to be a force to be reckoned with here. But certainly if the Time Warner merger goes through as we anticipate, we'll really be a force in this space. I mentioned this Time Warner acquisition. Most of you have probably been reading about it in the news, and this is a bit of an eye chart, but I guess the three relevant colors here to pay attention to are the green, orange, and blue, and that represents the Comcast, the Time Warner, and the Charter markets respectively. So effectively what happens in this merger, and I'll save any commentary on the political situation and focus more on what happens if and when this thing goes through. Effectively what would happen is Comcast would pick up all of the orange along the coasts and in Texas. We would give up some of the orange in the center part of the country, that is Ohio and Kentucky, and then in the process of combining these two networks, we're also talking about a territory swap with Charter that would give us more of the blue markets up and down the east and west coast. So in effect what it does is it consolidates Comcast footprints on the east and west coast in Chicago and in Texas, and then leaves big chunks of the Midwestern part of the country to Charter and this new company that is going to be spun out of this merger called Great Land Connections. So all in all, you'll come out of this with three very strong cable companies and a much more consolidated footprint, which makes it easier for the partners to sell. So Steve, I don't know if you wanted to jump in there, but I guess I could kind of end my part of this with one more comment. We've been in the channel a relatively short time. As I mentioned, you know, before, we've been selling Ethernet for just about 3 years. We've been in the channel space for about 4 years. Prior to that, the Business Services division had been in place for approximately 9 years overall. So we're a relatively new part of Comcast Business, which is currently a $4 billion business. We're also the fastest growing telecom program in channel history, and perhaps Patrick can touch on that a little bit later. But we are currently working through 11 master agents, of which Telarus is certainly one of the cream of the crop there. And we also have a distributor partner in Synex. Currently about 5,000 partners are selling for us, and as you can see over on the right-hand side, from the point we launched the program in March of 2011, This represents the growth curve at just one of our master agents, and you can see right now that they're over $5 million in, well, you can't really see the numbers over on the left. I guess they're fairly small, but this represents just one master agent that is currently at $5 million in billing. So again, we feel like we've been able to put together a really solid program and one that will benefit the Juniper VARs.
Looks great, and Carrie, definitely agree that you guys have put up some pretty strong numbers there, and as you mentioned, in somewhat of a relatively short period of time, when you consider the span of the telecom industry. So solid program, solid numbers, definitely excited to be participating with Comcast as a partner as you guys move forward. But speaking of that, David, let's move over to you. This sounds like a great opportunity for our partners to engage as well, especially for some of the reasons that Carrie talked about in terms of account control and better account management and, getting greater access to wallet share. Is there a program that Juniper has that our partners can leverage to take advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. So we do have a program. It's called the Cable Business Services Program, and it basically identifies, qualifies, and trains our VARs, regardless if it's an elite VAR or a select VAR, to sell wide-area Ethernet fiber on behalf of Comcast Business. If you look at the chart, this just shows a flow chart of how the process works from the VAR all the way up through the master agent to Comcast. So you can kind of see the path here. But basically, this is the coming together to develop a comprehensive partner ecosystem that will grow both connectivity for fiber as well as accelerate the adoption of Juniper hardware sales for our VARs. It allows our VARs to move to become really a complete VAR, is what I call that. So as bandwidth is a core requirement for all cloud-based solutions, it allows our VARs to move in this practice and build a telecom practice along with their existing IT practice. The nice thing about this is technology refresh as part of fiber installs can really generate additional pull-through hardware revenues. So it's really nice from our VARs on the hardware side. And the last thing I'd say is the cable companies, they're not competing with VARs. They're not interested in reselling edge gear infrastructure, unlike some of the other carriers. So it's also a positive for our VAR community.
As a number of our VARs are familiar with selling the Juniper hardware, clearly that's something that comes natural to them. How does the program work in terms of the handoff between what Comcast is going to provide as part of the service and what the partner would then sell in as part of the program?
Yeah, so the program basically, it identifies VARs once they're signed up through their respective master agent. If you look at the slide, everything to the right of the point of demarcation is Comcast owned. You see their network. The ACX box is our 1U transport box that is basically taking a layer 2 handoff, and that's installed at the customer prem. Everything to the left of the point of demarcation, that's all customer owned. So anything that the VAR wants to do on that side of it as far as sell, it could be VoIP, it could be hardware, layer 2, layer 3, all that is done by our VARs, just like the way they do today. That part, the additional CP piece, they would own the receivable, they would own the invoice there, and they can build out that customer account accordingly. And if you look, there's a lot of synergies there and a lot of similar operating rhythms. Our VARs are playing in a lot of the same verticals that Comcast and our masters are playing in, be it healthcare, educational, other areas, retail finance. They're playing in a lot of the similar places. The other thing, too, if you look at this really drives incremental revenue and gross margins for our VAR. It improves their service revenue mix because really what you're building up is a reoccurring revenue stream that our partners really don't see today. And it gives them the ability to deliver unique end-user solutions and enhances their competitiveness. It also improves their customer acquisition and end-user account control here. Thanks, Steve.
With that, why don't we transition over to Patrick and get a little bit more understanding about how this all comes together for the partners. Patrick, as many of our partners, being the Juniper partners, aren't familiar with Telarus, perhaps you could spend a brief moment just introducing your organization, and then we can dive into a little bit more about how you can help.
Fantastic. Well, Steve, just wanted to say it's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be invited to present on this call. Again, my name is Patrick Oborn. I'm a co-founder of a company called Telarus. Lots of people pronounce it lots of different ways, but we choose to pronounce it Telarus. As you may have deduced from my introduction, I'm not a telecom or cable person. I'm an engineer, and I quickly found that engineering had abundant riches, but the riches were not in the actual engineering itself. It was in the sales of a solution. And so when we started to build this company back in 2002, we really looked for companies that, or industries that we could provide solutions, fix stuff, kind of the engineering mantra. Industries that this processes were maybe a little medieval, that we could add a lot of additional value to. That keyword were residual income based. And when we discovered Telecom back in 2002 and how hard it really was to sell a circuit, we immediately latched on. We love the recurring revenue model, but more importantly, we saw a massive opportunity to automate and refine some of the processes that a lot of the legacy telcos were using and even today still use, so that we could make it easier for partners to sell telecom services, all of the actual plumbing that lies beneath all the cool cloud apps that lots of customers are asking for today. We are headquartered in Sandy, Utah. We have 64 employees. We do lots of revenue. We have several thousand partners signed up, with 500 to 600 partners selling with us on any given month. So we've been around now for quite a long time. We've learned a lot. And one of the unique things about Telarus that you'll find when you're looking for a master, which I'll talk about here in a second, is the value that they can provide to you. We actually have 10 full-time software developers, so we're a big believer in implementing software to help us solve some of the telecom sourcing issues that a lot of agents traditionally have encountered when selling telecom.
Great. And I know David used the term master agent, which might be new to some of our partners. So what exactly is a master agent, and how do master agents participate in the process of selling business services?
Well, when we first got started in this industry, again, me not coming from a telecom company or a cable company, the term master agent seemed a lot like Star Wars, where, I am your master. It's basically the IT equivalent, or the telecom equivalent of an IT distributor, except instead of distributing boxes, we distribute managed services in the form of telecom. So when companies like Comcast are looking to move product, there are several ways that they can do it. The first option, of course, is they have direct advertising, carpet bombing, TV ads, radio ads. They put 1-800-COMCAST all over everywhere. What they're looking for is the low-hanging fruit. They're looking for the mom-and-pop shops out there. They're looking for the barber shops, people who need 2 phone lines and a high-speed internet connection. And again, they just take those orders directly themselves. Next, they have a direct sales force. We call those direct reps in our industry. Those people are out door knocking, again, looking for low-hanging fruit, not quite as low as a direct ad, but going and knocking and socializing and talking to people and bringing in revenue. And these people have quotas. They have to bring in a certain amount of revenue every month. It's very cutthroat, but they have their salary and benefits paid for. Now, for the more complicated services, companies like Comcast just a few years ago have implemented what they call the indirect channel. Of course, you guys all know what the indirect channel is, but it's kind of a newer phenomenon on the cable services side. Comcast has really been a pioneer. They weren't the first, but they've really done an outstanding job in putting their channel together, taking their time, and being methodical about putting things together. So we are tasked, the channel, in finding more enterprise-grade customers that require more sophisticated solutions. But the channel is also tasked by Comcast, like Harry was telling us, with some of the more enterprise-grade products, the fiber, the very high-speed coax, the multi-site location opportunities with coax and fiber, SIP trunking, and a bunch of other things that really can be sold only through solution providers. You're not going to, have a direct rep knock a door and say, hey, can I get you some SIP trunking? Most of the higher fruit on the tree that's actually much larger in size have been apportioned over to the channel. And so what happens is Telarus functions in between our solution providers and Comcast. We do many things for them, including pricing, including quoting, including order entry, and then status updates on the back. And then Comcast, of course, sends us a residual commission check every month, and then we take that residual commission check and then break it out to our partners, as you can see in that lower line there on the chart where we pay it back. So again, we support everything on the front side, during, and also on the back side with regards to commission distribution.
So it sounds like you guys really help simplify the complexity of the sales process and also enable partners to drive bigger deals. So maybe in the next few slides you could take us through how exactly you guys go about doing that, some of the services you offer, and how you help partners to stand up a practice.
Certainly, Steve. When we put together Telarus, we had no idea what it was like to stand up a telecom practice. So as we've gone through this over the last dozen years, we've really done it with an eye for the person who doesn't do telecom currently, especially solution providers. It could be a scary thing to get into something so new. You don't know what to say. You don't have collaterals. You don't know how this whole thing is going to work. So we've really created a comprehensive program to really take some of those fears and some of those pains away. Starting out, if you don't know what to say, Telarus is here to help you with that messaging. We can help you with collaterals. We can help you with websites. We can help you with all of the questions that you need to ask your customers, or that your sales team can be trained to ask your customers for you with regards to carrier services. Second, front-end sales. We have both a full-service and self-service division of our company, with the full service being we just close the deal for you. We can close the deal any number of three ways. Number one, we can be your back office and visible in the background, just providing you all the information you need, including contracts. Second, we can come in as your private labeled carrier consultant, or you could just refer the lead over to us and we can close the lead for you. Again, that's part of our full service package. Next, complex design. We understand that when we work with solution providers of your caliber, that there will be many solutions that are incredibly complicated. So we have engineers in-house that have over a dozen years of engineering experience, both in CenturyLink and different engineering design firms. So we understand the switching and routing world very, very well. And then lastly, post-sales. When you deal in residual commissions with Comcast, what you're going to find is that Comcast expects us to maintain that customer, to take that customer's call if a bill is wrong, to help them get things fixed, if they want to move a circuit or they want to add a couple of more locations, that we're there to take care of that customer. And so Telarus has built a practice that can really help you do that. Second, I mentioned in the earlier slide a little bit about our software development group. Now, why is that software development group important? Because we believe strongly in getting you information quickly about Comcast, especially on some of the lower-end products that are low-hanging fruit, easy sales for us. Those sales don't become so easy when you have to wait around for people to do a qual, wait around for people to give you paperwork. You're like, man, this can't be so difficult. And so we've invested millions of dollars literally into our software development program called GeoQuote. And GeoQuote will go in real time and tell us with a given phone number and address if Comcast is available at that location. And if so, it sends you right into a paperwork generator where literally you answer 5 questions similar to TurboTax. It is April after all, in a couple weeks. And it spits out a PDF document. So we've taken some of these processes, and our mantra here at Telarus is automate that which can be automated. Speed this up so that we can put money in your hands as quick as possible. And then for the higher end circuits, the technology that we use is Google Maps. And if you've ever used Yelp and looked for a restaurant, what we do when you call us and say, hey, I need fiber or I need 100 meg at these 10 locations, is we go into our tool in GeoQuote, in the fiber locator tool, and we look up, similar to Yelp, where Comcast has existing fiber endpoints so that we can deduce if it's going to be a Comcast opportunity or if it needs to go to another carrier that has facilities there. We also have a large back office of people here who work in the background so that if it is slightly off-net, according to our maps, that we can go and actually price out what that construction would look like for your customer. Next, again, master agent, we're basically your shock absorber with Comcast. Comcast pays a residual commission as part of the channel. But what if residual commission isn't what your business model is based on? Or what if you need a little bit of upfront commission so that you can compensate your sales force and have a little bit of residual commission to come in just dropping to the bottom line? So Telarus has also leveraged a massive line of credit that we use to buffer commissions. And so we've created a program called Commissions As You Like It. And that enables solution providers to receive residuals like regular. You get paid like we get paid, or you want to get paid a little bit of upfront and a little bit of residual, or you know what, maybe you just want it all upfront right now. We can accommodate all of those things. Next, we actually believe strongly in investing in the businesses of our partners, and so we actually have a loan program. The really cool thing about having a residual income stream is that it basically functions as an asset from which you can loan money. So we've actually front load our partners' money, put money in their pocket that they can use for expansion, hiring, an ad campaign, whatever they want to do. So again, understanding the financial aspects of your business model is very important to us, and we've built a few different programs here to address those. Now, if this was so easy and so awesome, Patrick, Why doesn't everybody do it? Well, it's not, again, just about the financial aspects of the business model. Telecom is a dirty business. It's ugly. I don't want to paint any roses here where there aren't any roses. There are lots of different things that a lot of people have felt frustration with in the past. Many of you in the audience today will probably be among them. Sometimes it just takes time and effort just to get a price quote. Imagine walking into a building and pointing to the shelf saying, "Hey, sir, how much does that cost?" And he tells you, "I don't know. It'll be about a week." Well, what about that? Yeah, I don't know. It'll be about 2 days. So that constant waiting is just, it creates business friction, and we want to create this a very frictionless environment for you. Second, a lot of times provisioning issues that carriers have or providers have reflect poorly upon the VAR. So the VAR is reluctant to bring that carrier practice in-house because, heaven forbid, we can't install a circuit or report a phone number wrong or something. That looks bad on you. Telarus has done a tremendous amount of work to take that pain off of your plate as well. Again, compensation incompatibility we just addressed. And lastly, close rate. We know that when people get into a business, it's not their core. Close rate is a hard thing to do. It's hard to learn a new trick to get that close ratio up, and that's, again, why we've created the full service package where we can actually talk to your customers and sell those solutions for you. Last but not least, there's money to be made here. There's an incredible amount of things that Telarus has done to take headache off of your plate, but there still are a couple of things you need to consider, and those are marketplace-based things. Number one, as we learned from the Blockbuster days, people love to watch movies. Everyone probably listening to this loves watching movies. We love renting movies. We like watching them when we want to watch them. But the whole part about people in selling IT or selling any type of service is you have to stay in tune with your audience. And Telarus recognizes this. The strategy of Blockbuster was we're going to rent movies and we're going to make it a good experience and people can come in. And then Redbox and Netflix popped up and both created a different buying experience. And to Blockbuster's, too bad for them a little bit, they weren't necessarily paying attention to how their customers wanted to buy. So it's not just the what, it's the how your customers want to buy it. How do they want to consume what you sell? Well, there's been some studies done on how customers want to consume managed services. And managed services includes the whole thing. It includes the switching and routing. It includes the WAN. It includes everything inside and outside the DMARC. They want a technology solution. They don't want to buy pieces of it like an automobile where they go buy cars, they go buy tires and the windshield and transmission. And no, they want to buy a car. So CompTIA recently did a study, and they said how both medium and large businesses, and they asked them how they want to consume this type of product. And 63%, almost two-thirds of it, said they want to consume it from the channel from a single solution provider. So that single solution creates a lot of different nuances. Case in point, there was recently a study or a customer that a Juniper VAR had locked up a hospital. They've been buying Juniper gear for years. The Juniper VAR had been providing services for years, and when asked about selling carrier services into this hospital, the Juniper VAR promptly said, "I don't need to do that. It's not my expertise, and by the way, I have this relationship on lockdown. I golf with the owner. They've been buying from me for years. I don't have any worries." So in comes Presidio, a competitor, selling Cisco, and they didn't go in under Cisco. They went in to sell Comcast to this hospital. They sold lots of fiber circuits to this hospital and SIP trunking. They got into the deal, which was pretty sizable in its own right, and they started making residual commissions from Comcast. So they, in turn, turned those commissions from Comcast around into an all-hands-on-deck marketing campaign, and within the year, Juniper was gone out of that network, and it became a Cisco network. And why is that? It's because Presidio leveraged the carrier service business as a weapon. Again, customers want to buy everything from one person, so not selling Comcast is leaving the side door open for competition to get in. The less hands that you've got in your accounts, as Carrie Tingler put it recently, do not let the fox into the hen house, because again, the carrier services are an ample back door by which your competitors can get into your accounts, create relationships, and then ultimately try to sell against your core. So again, it's a money-making opportunity. It's the future. Customers want to buy it from one source, and selling Comcast services through Telarus or another master will really help you lock down those customers and protect yourself from the end around.
Well, Patrick, thank you for the overview of Telarus, and I'll definitely remember that it's Telarus. Appreciate that insight as well. And, interesting, especially on this last slide that you took us through with the case study here, there is that option that some of our partners might have to choose to do nothing when it comes to reselling business services from Comcast. But, as you highlighted and as Carrie pointed out earlier, there are other VARs out there that are going to be doing this, and they'll become that fox in the hen house, taking this business away. So do nothing going forward probably isn't going to be the best option. Really at a critical inflection point in the industry here for the VARs to be standing up these services and making this part of their practice. And I think that's a good segue over to Tim. With Tim's role over at Carousel, who is one of our Juniper partners. Tim, welcome to the webinar again, and perhaps you could take us through a little bit about why Carousel chose to join this program. Similar to one of your competitors here as we see Presidio.
Sure, Steve. Carousel is one of the largest solution providers in the country, but like most VARs in our space, we're focused on transforming ourselves from transactional top-line revenue to a recurring revenue model. We've been taken there by our customers who are looking more and more, as an example, at hosted voice and video solutions. When I reflect back on when I joined the company 2 years ago, there was several reasons we chose to invest in building out our carrier practice. First was the opportunity to create a new long-term recurring revenue stream on top of maintenance and managed services. While we continue to see a lot of success in our voice, video, and data practice areas, some areas of the business are slowing down. But every carrier sale we make pays us a recurring commission for the life of the agreement. It's an annuity that keeps growing and returns a strong ROI to the business. This protects us from highs and lows of the one-time transactional sales. The second reason, which was as or more important than the revenue opportunity, was to add value to our client relationships, or as Carrie mentioned, control the account. I'll touch more of this in a minute, but as we know, customers struggle with managing their carriers, and they've been asking us for help. When we can help a customer manage a project or help escalate a trouble ticket on their behalf, it adds value and stickiness to our relationship. We've also found we're able to pull through additional hardware and managed services sales by freeing up budget dollars for our customers. When we do an audit across our customers' voice and data services, quite often we find that they're overpaying by 10 to 30% for legacy services or over-trunking or unused services that they didn't realize that they had. When we factor these savings into the customer's ROI to help fund a new data infrastructure refresh, a new IP office, or a video system or managed services agreement that they might not have been able to afford, without the audit we perform across all of their services. In addition, the U.S. Ethernet market opportunity alone represents a $17 billion opportunity, and there continues to be an insatiable demand for bandwidth as customers connect to the cloud and push more applications across the network. And as we know, it wasn't that long ago when T1s were considered blazing fast, but now those T1 circuits are being replaced with 10 meg, 100 meg, and 10 gig circuits.
So, Tim, thanks for the overview. And, yeah, I do remember those days when T1 was blazing fast, and it was not as long ago as I would care to remember or suggest. But with that, how has this program enabled Carousel to provide more value to your customers? How will it enable our partners to provide more value to the customers that they call on in the enterprise space?
Well, as I mentioned a minute ago, and as I think we all know, our clients struggle with managing the complexities of their telecom services. They pay for a wide range of services procured from different carriers with complex agreements. They experience frequent changes with their direct account teams, and their telecom inventory is a moving target. One of the tenets of our value proposition is that we provide clarity to the chaos and act as a single point of contact, which it ultimately enhances our relationship with the customer. Similar to the agnostic approach we take in other areas of our business, we're carrier neutral. But not all carriers are great at everything. But we know each of the carrier's strengths and weaknesses, and we'll vet multiple options, gathering pricing and then talking to the customer about the pros and cons of each provider based on their specific objectives. This puts us at the playing table with them and opens up the opportunity to have new conversations with customers that we haven't spoken to in a while. Next, we act as an advocate and give time back to our customers so they can focus on their business by helping them oversee the project management of any new services they order and offload the responsibility for tracking and escalating all repairs with their carrier. In other words, we just don't parachute in, sell them something, and disappear. Our goal is to develop a long-term relationship. This customer-first approach and personal service component really resonates with customers. And in the end, our customers gain a trusted advisor. Everyone on our team has 15 years of industry experience, and we strive to meet with our customers on a quarterly basis to review their business needs.
Nice. So this program has really enabled you to both deepen and broaden the relationship that you have within your accounts. But what value and benefit have you derived from the program? You know, what does Carousel get out of this?
It's been really exciting building the practice within Carousel. Over the last 24 months, we've made $42 million in sales, but it does require some patience because it takes time to build momentum as you make sales and you work through the lead times of, the different carriers we work with, which sometimes could be anywhere from 30 days to, 3 or 4 months. But last year, our revenue grew 23%, and so far this year, through Q1, our revenue is up 54% year over year compared to last year. As I mentioned earlier, we've also pulled through millions of additional hardware and managed services sales that we wouldn't have made if we didn't include carrier services as part of our discussion.
Sounds great. And it sounds like you have a great partnership with Juniper and Comcast on this, which is really helping you to drive business. What were some of the key things that enabled your success in getting this up and running?
We had some initial challenges that are typical to the VAR culture, but I would share the following as lessons learned. Under a master agent, you'll have access to 50 to 70 carriers. Some of the carriers are better than others, as we know, so it's important to partner with the carriers that are easy to work with and that protect your brand. For us, Comcast is one of those strategic partners. Our team has a tremendous amount of confidence in selling their Ethernet services. Their project management is excellent, and the service goes in and is extremely reliable. In fact, I was thinking today, in preparing for our talk today, that I can't remember the last time we got a repair call on one of our Comcast customers. Because of our working relationship and the confidence that we have with Comcast, we consider them, of all the carriers that we represent, the number one service provider in terms of service delivery and reliability across our portfolio. One of the other advantages of Comcast that Kerry touched on is that we avoid the finger pointing, which is sometimes typical with many carriers and LECs with local loop issues, because Comcast, like other cable companies, own the entire network from end to end. We also chose to build a dedicated carrier sales and operations team as an overlay to our hardware AEs across the country. Our team are experts in dealing with the carriers. In addition, we've also looked at the comp plan internally to understand what motivates the hardware rep to engage us with their customer. Naturally, they're protective, as they should be, because they've worked hard to build relationships with their clients, and sometimes they might have large opportunities on the table. So rightfully so, they are very protective of their accounts. But through our comp plan design, we've actually decided to double comp the hardware AEs and our carrier team and allow the hardware reps to retire quota against their gross margin objectives. And so since we've done this and we've made a couple tweaks over the last couple of years, we've actually seen a two or threefold increase in the amount of participation that we have from our hardware team. Another key to our success has been strong account planning and internal education. Because the hardware folks have different areas of subject matter expertise, whether it be voice, video, or data, they don't all understand carrier services because sometimes it, as we know, it has its own language. But so we've done a lot of internal training across the teams, including just basic qualifying questions, so they learn how to identify an opportunity. In addition, we've also become more aggressive in driving awareness in our customer base through email campaigns and other lead generation programs.
It sounds like there's a number of key things here to consider, and definitely appreciate you sharing some of the secrets of your success. Before we wrap up and move over to questions and answers, I did want to do a quick advert at this point just to let our partners know where they can go for additional information on this program and how to participate in it. So within the Juniper Networks Partner Center, we do have a page set up that's dedicated to the Juniper Cable Business Services program. I've provided the URL on this slide, so you can click through when you get the deck within the Partner Center, but also you'll find it within the Partner Center itself on the home page. And with that, I'll also highlight again that we do have the question and answer panel here available, so if anybody on the webinar today has a question that you'd like to share with any of our panelists, please feel free to add that or type that into the Q&A panel. We'll get to those as soon as we wrap up. So right now I'd like to move back over to Patrick just to take us through next steps. So Patrick, overall, this has been a great discussion. Definitely appreciate everybody joining the webinar today and sharing the insights in this program. But how can our partners get signed up? What do they do next?
Well, thanks a lot, Steve. The first step is to choose a master agent. Should you choose Telarus, which I hope you will, what you need to do is just give us a call. Our phone number is 877-346-3232, or you can visit us online at www.telarus.com and click on Partner Programs. There's a quick information form there. You just give us your name, phone number, and email address. We will reach out to you. Ruth Morford, who is our Director of New Partner Development, will be in contact with you. She will talk to you and design a custom support plan for you. Our commissions and compensation vary based upon the level of support you require. We are very flexible and look forward to working with you on that. Once you have gone through with her and decided what exactly you want from Telarus and how we can support your Comcast selling efforts, then we will send you an electronic contract which you can sign, which then sends you into our onboarding process. So a lot of things that Tim just talked about. There's a lot of education that's required. There's collaterals. There's comp models. There's all of those things. We will sit down and consult with you and design and help you design a carrier practice model that is best for your business. And then once we get up and running and we start working with you on your opportunities with Comcast, a monthly wire will hit your bank account on the 28th of each month with the comp plan metrics that you have designed up front with us. So again, it's pretty easy. Give us a call, check out our website, and we will initiate the process and get you started. Thanks, Steve.
So thank you, Patrick. Appreciate the overview there of what our partners can do next in terms of getting integrated into the program. I was looking at the time here and noticed that we've got time for a couple of questions. We had a few come in offline. So with that, this first one, perhaps Carrie and Patrick, the two of you could address together. Maybe Carrie, you could take it first and hand off to Patrick. But the question is, what happens if my customer has locations outside of Comcast's geographic area? We were looking at that chart that you put up where Comcast resides. So, what if you have a customer that has branches within the Midwest? How do we address that?
Well, that's a great question, and obviously a perfect one for me to hand off to Patrick in just a second. But again, the cable companies generally don't compete. There are literally probably just a handful of zip codes across the entire country where Comcast would overlap with Time Warner or with Charter. It's just really 99.9% of the time what you'll find is that we abut their network. And so that really is one of the principal benefits that a master agent like Telarus can bring together or bring to the party on behalf of the VAR, because your customers are not going to, self-select based on them being in Comcast footprint or Time Warner footprint. So Telarus gives you the ability to work across multiple cable companies and indeed even across multiple vendors. If it turns out that a customer happens to be in some rural area, that's another one of the benefits that Telarus can bring to the table and really take the burden off of the VAR's shoulders from the standpoint of helping craft that overall solution. So I guess the short answer to the question, Steve, is the master agents like Telarus work with multiple cable companies and can provide national coverage, even if an individual cable company can't. They also have the ability to bring in other vendors that might be able to round out a complete solution. And with that, I guess I'll hand it over to Patrick to let him elaborate on that.
No, thanks, Gary. You're dead on. I mean, there's really two types of solutions you're really looking at right here. Number one is let's see if we can leave it all on net, in which case Comcast has a brand new product called the Wide Area Ethernet product where you can be on net in Seattle, on net in Miami, and on net in Denver and have those all connect via layer 2 Ethernet through the Comcast system. If you have locations that are off that network in a Charter territory or Time Warner Cable, for example, Comcast also has the ability to NNI in with those guys and essentially extend their network through their other cable partners out there so that you can, again, have one network. In the off case that doesn't work out, like Carrie just suggested, Telarus does represent multiple carriers, so we can really plug those holes. One of the areas where Telarus really excels is in the multi-location retail and hospitality area, where there's locations everywhere, and all you need is standalone internet access. Building networks is one thing, but then again, helping a business owner gain access to his 500 burger joints across the country, that's really a blended solution. So Telarus, we employ our technology on the GeoQuote side to find the best fits for all of those places. Of course, wherever we see Comcast, it's basically a winner because no one can really compete on price or speed. And then we can, again, supplement the other areas with other carriers. Great question.
So, yeah, and it sounds like we've got a really solid solution there also. This next question goes over to Tim. So, Tim, the question is, what were some of the initial challenges you had in getting your carrier services business off the ground, and how did you mitigate those?
Well, I think the first one that I faced when I joined the company a couple of years ago was just the concern over the customer service experience that the customer might have. We all know that some carriers are better than others, and before we had a carrier practice, we relied on the customers to manage their own carrier services, and sometimes we would miss due dates because the carrier didn't deliver a service in time, but we didn't have control over it. So naturally, the hardware reps across the country were protective, and because they didn't want us to harm the relationship. But over time, as they've seen the quality and the knowledge of our team, and more specifically the operations team that we built and the processes that we put in place to ensure that we check orders, that we're following through with the carrier, that we're updating the customer throughout the process and really front-ending that process for the customer and offloading that responsibility for them, we've actually seen a tremendous amount of momentum and testimonials from customers about our leverage with carriers and how fast we've been able to actually get things done on their behalf. So we know carriers are going to have problems sometimes, but customers really appreciate that when we step in and on their behalf and manage it for them. We've started as a concern, but now that we've built out our practice, we've had a tremendous amount of success in showing our internal teams that we can add a tremendous amount of value. The other was naturally the comp, because as a VAR, our sales team was used to one-time transactional sales, one-time commissions, and the idea that they might make a carrier sale and get a little bit of money each month took some education. But we've developed some Rule of 78 models, and we're able to hold up or show illustrations of how that compounds over time. So there's still naturally some standouts, across the company that prefer that one-time sale. But we measure our participation from quarter to quarter across the company, and more the team is understanding the benefit of building a long-term residual stream of their own, and not at the sacrifice of what they do today, but just in addition to what they're earning today.
Great, thanks, Tim. And in looking at the time, I see we're at the top of the hour, so unfortunately we're at the end of our time together, but I do want to thank all of the panelists for joining us today and providing an overview of Comcast Business Services, Telarus as a master agent, and obviously, Tim, your contributions in terms of how our partners can stand this up and the value that your customers and and the partners themselves will derive in David's overview of the Juniper Cable Business Services program. With that, I want to thank all the participants for attending, and just let you know that we look forward to seeing you on future Learning Academy events. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. This meeting is ended, and you may now disconnect.